Okay, we're gonna get started and jump into the next session. Pastor James, are you recording the buffer time in between, or is this like a new session?
It's a new session.
Oh, so wise. Okay, cool. If you guys look at the, I didn't send out the schedule, but we're gonna be going into like counseling 101. Honestly, I don't have much to share. Pastor Lisa is gonna go into the details of what it looks like to like run a small group. But I just wanted to take a little bit of time, probably not the whole 30 minutes, but just a little bit to kind of set the expectation and share with you guys what you're getting into. I was hoping that most of the counselors would be here today, but it's cool. Hopefully they all watch this video. And I want to begin by saying that a lot of people come in as counselors because, especially for Bridge, you know, they experienced Bridge in years past as students. Like, you know, I grew up attending Bridge, a lot of my friends did, and even now, seeing former students go to Bridge, and most times they all come back when they get older as counselors. But their reasoning is like, oh, I had so much fun at Bridge, you know, I want to be a counselor next time too, because I want to like lead and I want to do all these fun things and like kind of just lead a small group. And I'm not gonna be one to place any kind of judgment or any kind of assumption as if I know where they are spiritually. But I do want everyone to understand that this role that you have signed up for is one that carries a lot of responsibility. Especially this year, because we are excluding one day from a retreat. All of our retreats, and especially at Bridge, are typically 4 days long. So, you know, kind of like what Ethan said, like, oh, we don't have much time, because especially like skip practices and things like that. So I think there is a greater emphasis and kind of a greater urgency this year because your time is very limited with these kids. And so the first thing that I wanted to cover is, is to go into this time with humility. It is very easy to fall into this kind of trap and temptation of, oh, I'm the oldest in this group, these kids are under my, I don't say authority, but my leadership. But understand that you are there to serve them as a guide. Not just an adult figure, but as a guide. The biggest thing is that you guys are here and you have signed up, and we thank you, really, like from the bottom of our hearts that you signed up. But your main priority, as well as ours and the praise team and Pastor Will, our speaker, everyone's main priority is going to be about Jesus. Okay? It's to keep people focused on Jesus, to teach Jesus, to allows especially the students to learn about him more, to become more like him, and to enter into, I guess, a new place in their walk with God. Even if it's just for a total of maybe like 48 hours that you were together, this is going to be one kind of place in their life where you guys can leave a very strong impression. At least from my experience, a lot of people have formed their most memorable and impressionable spiritual moments from retreats. And there are counselors that resonate with us. There are counselors that remember years and years and years later that we appreciate because of what they poured into for the students. And so go into this with a very humble heart. And even though, especially I think for the older students, I counseled the senior small group last year, and I think Eugene Huang was in my group and a couple other seniors. They asked like some loaded questions. And for those moments, I will say, unless you know the answer, it's totally okay to say, I don't know. It's totally okay to tell them, go talk to your pastor instead, or let me talk to my pastor and get back to you. But the reason why I say humility is because I don't want you guys to just kind of share things and answer things in a way where you seem like you know it all, but you are giving them misinformation and potential, I don't know, heresy. That's the last thing that we want. Okay? And so that's the first part. The second thing is that we must always be prepared. I'm so glad that this training exists. I do a summer retreat with Pastor James and now Pastor Sam. We join together in the summertime. It's kind of like a mini bridge. It's kind of cute. But we don't have counselor training because we just gather all the counselors from our own churches that we can account and vouch for. But this moment, I think, is so helpful because it allows us to go through the schedule. We, predetermine the skit topics and go through all the things together. And preparation is so key. If we go into our small groups without any kind of preparation or any kind of goal, there's going to be very little progress, especially during the small group discussion times where you guys are going around, you're saying, hey guys, okay, so what did you guys get from the message? And so I think if you take the time from now until the actual sermon, or not sermon, the retreat, to look over the sermon topics, the sermon passages, and prepare and kind of figure out a direction that you want to go, I think that's going to be very helpful. I found this quote online. I don't know if you guys know who John Wooden is. He's a basketball coach. It's deep. He says, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. It's deep. And it gave me like a truck. I'm preaching this week. I read that quote while I was doing this and made sermon prep harder. But always prepare. Okay? Don't rely on kids to do all the talking. Don't rely on them to carry the small group discussions for 30 minutes. You are the counselor. You are the guide. You are their leader for the next 3 days that they're with you. Not even 3 days, like a day and a half. Okay? But when I say being prepared, it doesn't mean like, you outline every single second or every single minute of your discussion. You have like a script written out for your small group time. I don't mean that you guys get all meticulous and nitty-gritty with it, but you should know what you're going to cover. You should know what you're going to talk about. You should know how you're going to lead. Okay, so I really encourage you guys to give a look at Pastor Will's sermon titles, sermon topics, and passages. Pray over them, and just see where God wants to lead you through that. Because especially with the different age groups, the younger ones might need something vastly different from the seniors and vice versa. So there's going to be a lot of expectations. The other thing is that because Bridge this year is so short, I can only say so much and hope for so much, but let's try not to waste any time. These are going to be technically kind of like your sheep for the next couple days. And so let's pour out and really give everything that we can for them. I don't want any one of the counselors here to leave Bridge with any kind of regret, regretting that you didn't love someone or pray for someone enough or encourage someone when you should have, things like that. Whatever you're feeling, even if you are tired, exhausted, annoyed, frustrated, we have all signed up for this retreat to lead and to serve. And so to the very end, it's just a few days. Let's give everything that we can, because God will give you the rest that you need after it's over. Okay, so humility, preparation. And the next thing is, it ties into everything that I've said so far, but these are going to be more community-based times together than classroom-based times. And what I mean by that is that you are not going to be the only one talking. You are not going to be the only one taking over the conversation or discussions. It's to grow with one another. Okay? It's to invest, especially with the younger students. I don't know what the small groups look like off the top of my head, but if you are with the middle schoolers or the underclassmen, they are the ones that are going to need the most kind of love and care and guidance. Because they're going to be the newest into the faith, into the church, into worship. And so invest in them the same way your pastors and counselors in the past have invested into you. Because they will remember you. They will be edified by whatever you have to pour out into them. And they will grow. I guarantee you that. If this is anyone first time small group leading here? Ian, David? At a retreat environment. Okay, so you've done it at like church and stuff? Okay. I was just curious. Nothing wrong with that. I am excited that you guys can get a chance to do this, but there will be times where either you don't get enough sleep, something's just not clicking in the day, you were just not in a good mood, where you're going to be so tempted, so badly tempted to ignore someone, give a kid less attention, maybe even kind of snap at them a little because they're being super disruptive and annoying. In those times, eagerly urge you to hold it in, and let's be as Christ-like as we possibly can. I only say that because, again, using just my own experience from the past, last bridge, there were a couple students on the much younger side that were very disruptive, very just, like, no filter, no nothing, and they tested my patience to, like, the limit. But thankfully, by the grace of God, I was able to continue to pray and love on them. And this, I only share this kind of like as a warning, just in case you guys come across students like that. But really ask yourself, humbly, like, what would Jesus do? It's very simple. So these are your communities. This is going to be your kind of brotherhood and sisterhood for the next couple of days. So let's love on them as much as we can. And I have a few last little points that I want to get to. I had to actually scratch a lot of this out because I think Pastor Lisa's going to cover it. But going back to being prepared, even after today or even now, whatever might be coming into your mind and whatever God might be putting into your heart, set a goal for your group. Pray over your group. It'll go such a long way. And especially in the actual group setting when you are being and you're acting as their counselor, just be a good listener. It goes such a long way when you allow someone to speak and you affirm them through your body language and your responses and your respect for their time. And just be very involving with everybody. So set a goal. I wanted to emphasize that more than anything this year for the counselors and even pastors, mainly because our time is so limited together and I don't want any of it to go to waste. Secondly, commit yourself and the others, your small group, to spiritual growth. Now, what does that look like? For yourself, from now until Thursday when we get together, I do hope that everyone spends time in prayer. You guys can do everything that you can for this small group and to, from the outside, make it seem like a very successful winter retreat. But without prayer, without faith, without relying on God to do the work that He needs to do, there is nothing happening. There's no fruit being produced. There is no growth. Okay, so for yourself and for your students, now that you have your list of small group members, pray for them. If you don't know who they are, it's okay. God does. You just pray for them by name. Again, review the QTs, review the sermons, and just continue to ask God. I don't know how your prayer life looks. I don't know what your private life looks like or your spiritual life looks like, but if prayer is something that's like a little uncomfortable for you still and you're not too used to extended times of prayer, this is a great chance to start, I think, as you guys prepare for this winter retreat. Because again, this responsibility is not light. It is very, I don't know, what's the word? Large, heavy? I don't know, but you guys have a great responsibility with your 7+ kids per small group. Thirdly, just remember that God is in charge at the end of the day. It's great to laugh and to crack jokes and talk about TikToks and memes and whatever is going on in the world, and it's so good to relate to one another in that sense. But again, God is the one who can do the work. Okay? And so I want us to continue to keep a humble heart and a humble mind going into this. I have no doubt that God will use every single one of you in the ways that you need to be used to be able to reach out to each one of these students. But I just wanted to remind you that there is a responsibility on our end before going into this retreat. And so me as well, and along with the other pastors, I'm sure we'll be praying for you a lot before and during the retreat. Just continue to have faith that whatever God is doing in you will come to pass and will come out successful come Saturday afternoon. Okay, so I have a list of types of people you'll come across in your small groups. Pastor Lisa, are you going through any of that in your?
No, go for that.
Okay, cool. This is all just from experience. But let me just quickly go through this, okay? So with planning, just have a purpose, and then Create a safe environment. I don't know what your guys' like personalities are like. I don't know what your MBTIs, but me and Pastor James are like INTJs. We've been in the back talking to only each other this whole time because we're too shy to talk to anyone else. Even now, I can feel my body temperature rising and my sweat starting to form because I'm nervous. Okay? But still, let's try to create a safe, welcoming, loving, comfortable environment. Okay? I don't know what that looks like, but you guys can do some kind of icebreaker with your students to kind of make them feel at ease. Because the time is short. Maybe if we don't maximize and capitalize on the opportunities that we have, these kids might get comfortable right before you leave and you'd be like, man, the retreat's over though. So let's try and do the best that we can to reach out to every one of our group members. There's a lot of challenging people that we will come across. Again, this is also for the younger students, the younger small groups. There's going to be someone who just simply overtalks. Okay, they like to comment, they like to throw in jabs because I don't know, maybe in school they're known as like the class clown or the funny guy. Okay. If you guys need to, step outside with them, not to fight, but to just have a talk. Check them. Okay, if they're being disruptive, if they're over talking. It is embarrassing for them, but sometimes if you need to do these things, it must be done. Or call over me. I'm not leading a small group this year, so if you guys need someone that needs kind of rebuking or disciplining, I'll gladly take on that responsibility. Okay. Also, I forgot to mention in the retreat booklet rules, Pastor James wanted to emphasize this, and I agree with him. It's very unchristlike, but there's a no grace rule this year. It sounds very unchristlike, but if you break any of these rules, it's one and done. We're sending you home, and I'll drive you home. Okay. We just like to respect the retreat center and one another. So we don't want. I think there have been other instances in the past where a lot of things have been damaged. People got hurt, and so just to prevent that, we will emphasize when we go over the retreat rules that you break one of them, I have my car ready to send you home. Okay, so we have the over-talker, and then on the flip side, there is the non-talker. Okay? This is tough, because especially in our current climate, there's a lot of people who are struggling with mental illnesses and anxiety and all this like extreme shyness. This is tough, actually. In the past, before COVID happened, I'd be like, just make them talk. Squeeze it out of them, but it doesn't work that way. I will say don't avoid them entirely, but call on them periodically. If you have people that are more active and more eager to kind of talk and discuss, that's fine. And every now and then you can throw them a bone to see if they have anything they want to share. But they don't have to always be talking. But the best way, I will say, for the non-talkers, the less active members in your small group, is to give them attention outside of small group discussions. During lunch, try and talk with them privately, but especially, again, the most important thing is to pray. Continue to pray for these people. Not that, they would start talking like, God, would you give this person like a chatterbox? No, like, God, would you continue to do what you're doing? Love on them, allow them to encounter you in these ways, things like that. And then the next group that you might come across is like the ADD group, the tangent starters, the ones where you can be talking about, hey, what'd you guys like about Pastor Will's sermon? And maybe he gave like an example on trains. And he goes, I like the trains. Oh, I saw a train on the way here. Did you know trains can carry this much freight? They can go like so off topic, and like next thing you know, the Holy Spirit and the gospel's like infinitely miles away. Don't get upset. I don't want you, don't snap at me focus, we don't, Feel free to go off topic every once in a while, and I'm sure you guys, since you're in college and your brains are way more developed than theirs, you can definitely use this tangent to somehow maneuver your way back into whatever topic is at hand. It's so easy. and it's honestly kind of fun. Okay, I don't know how you can turn the train into one of Pastor Will's like sermons, but there is a will. Okay, not a will. There is a way for this will to be done. Okay, so don't get startled, don't get distracted, don't get frustrated with these like off-topic topics. However, if it does get excessive, hit me up. I'll be there. Okay? And then just a couple more and I'll be finished. And then Pastor Lisa can give you the details of the small groups and discussion. There is going to be someone who just has no filter and is just super insensitive. This one I encountered on a very personal level last year because one of my students, though literally the youngest person at the retreat, probably had the foulest mouth I've ever heard from a kid at a retreat. If there's anyone making fun of or being discouraging to other members in your small group, or he cuts people off, or does anything to offend you or your small group members, immediately let me know. If you want, you can talk with this person privately to see if they're willing to kind of change and be more behaved. But if you sense that this is going to be an issue, talk to me. I'll form my own small group full of rebels or something. And we'll do a musical skit if it comes to that, okay? Because I know that option's still there. So if you have any bad behaving students, send them to me. But as I mentioned in the very beginning, let's do our best to be as patient as we can, as loving as we can. Because the end goal of our small group, the end goal of our worship, and the end goal of this retreat is life change through the Holy Spirit. Okay, so let's constantly stay open and receptive. And if you need patience and things like that, just pray for it in your own times. These little micro prayers I've learned throughout the years helps a lot. These 5-second prayers asking God for help can go a long way. Okay? And so I'll just close by saying, stay prayerful, don't lose patience, and just continue to trust God. It's a short time. 2 days is so short. 3 days is so short. But let's not miss out on anything God's doing simply because our emotions get the best of us, or physically we are tired or weary. That is all I have. The focus is just to pray. So guys, I hope everyone can pray for the next 4 or 5 days. And let's have a great winter retreat, man. We have a pretty big crowd, and I'm excited to minister to them and to you guys the time that we have. Cool. We going into another break, or?
Yeah, can we pray? Can you pray for lunch?
Yeah.